Call this meeting of the East Franklinton Review Board to order. Stephanie, swear you in, please. State your name for the record.
Stephanie Kensler.
And Stephanie, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Deal. Call roll, please.
Mr. Fergus.
Here.
No, Mr. Wade. Mr. Bush.
Here.
Mr. Noffi.
Here.
Ms. Benner. Here. Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Deal. All right. Everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting? Unless there are any additions or corrections, the same, I would entertain a motion. Motion. To approve the minutes for last month. That's just not a motion. A second.
I second.
Okay, Chris seconded. And call roll, please.
Mr. Fergus.
Approved.
Mr. Bush.
Approved.
Mr. Noffi.
Approve.
Ms. Benner.
Approved.
Mr. Sweeney.
Approve.
Ms. Hamilton.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Deal. All right. We have two continued applications. The first is 464 West Town Street. Applicant is Kathleen Harper and the owner is Harper Enterprises Incorporated. Stephanie, staff report, please.
Sure, thank you. I just want to note that we saw these two applications in January, and we kind of muddled the conversation in between the two. So if we could try to keep the conversation separate tonight, since we're doing for action.
The best.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to need to recuse myself for these next two applications.
And so will I.
All right, still the forum. Good. Thank you. It's, Jim Sweeney.
Staff report.
All right, staff report.
EF 23-01001 for 464 West Town Street. The applicant is requesting a demolition of a single-family home. Upon demolition of the structure, the site would be backfilled, graded, leveled, and capped with recycled 304 gravel. The applicant advised that maintenance of the property would be added to their existing agreement for the upkeep of their other vacant McDowell Street properties. The submittal includes a site plan, condition assessment, photos, and an inspirational image. This proposal was previously reviewed by the East Franklinton Review Board at the January 2023 meeting. During that meeting, the board requested more detailed information on the condition of the building, as well as a plan for how the property would be used and maintained if the house was demolished. The applicant has provided a more detailed conditions assessment, as well as an inspirational image. After reviewing the additional information provided, staff continues to not support the demolition of the single-family home, circa 1892, as the condition does not appear to be beyond repair, and the house represents a historic style and pattern of single-family home development on West Town Street. However, the home is likely not eligible for the local register. The proposal is inconsistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. The plan recommends that historic and other contributing buildings should be preserved to the extent possible. Further, no replacement use is being proposed. Therefore, staff recommends that the EFRB either 1, continue the application to allow the applicant more time to develop a proposal for the future of the site, or 2, deny the application as it is inconsistent with the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Actually, I have one. You state in your analysis that the condition does not appear to be beyond repair. Detail on that?
That was in consultation with our historic preservation staff who sees these types of requests all the time. They noted that the dry stack foundation generally, I think there was one area that looked a little rough, but generally looked okay, and noted that things like asbestos siding, if it's painted, that's considered encapsulated, and other issues of things that in these older homes that would not be code compliant today are generally grandfathered in. So this was something that they felt, is a type of construction that they've seen renovated successfully.
All right. Any other questions for staff? If not, the applicant step forward, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. State your names for the record, please.
Kathleen Harper with Harper Enterprises.
And Mike McCraw with Rigid Engineering.
And to both of you, do you swear or affirm that statements and testimony you're about to give be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do. I do.
Okay, thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. This is the second structural engineer that we've had on site. Both have entered the structure into the crawl space or basement. The first structural engineer was perhaps a little more youthful than I. This time I decided to bring a more experienced structural engineer, and I think I did submit his bio, so you have an idea of what his background is. And I do believe that we are doing the right thing by demolishing these structures. I believe they're structurally unsound, and I believe they increase the blight and cause a safety problem for our neighbors. And I'll turn this over to Mike with reference to the structural report.
Well, in terms of my report, so hopefully the description is self-explanatory, what my opinion of the structure is. So I've been doing this for a long time, 30 plus years. And I love old buildings. You know, to me, especially old homes are neat, and I enjoy working with them. Well, a couple things on the comments earlier, talking about not beyond repair. You know, I'm not sure what the definition of repair is. You know, to some point, it's not repair anymore, it's rebuild. And I think parts of both of those, well, we're going to be confined with town, especially town. Much of that is not repairable, in my opinion, and should probably be rebuilt. I've done a lot of houses like this over the years, a lot of them over by the hospital and where they're redoing all that, a lot of stacked stone structures. You know, stacked stone, on one hand is awesome. It's a lot of mass, it's heavy, it doesn't, you know, it takes a lot of vertical load. The negative to stacked stone is it's very, very hard to waterproof. Most of the time, or at least some of the time, they're not fastened in any way. Either they weren't mortared originally, or the mortar now is has started or finished disintegrating. And then on the town street structure, one of the big problems with the stacked stone is when they bring that stacked stone up and then they begin to build the house. Well, they put the wood directly on the stone. And so that's, you know, it's probably one of the most non-code compliant things there are. And it's really difficult to fix because you don't have any flat surface to rebuild. When they're doing a new home today, obviously you're either using poured concrete or you're using block. You've got a treated member on top of that you begin to build the rest of the house with. So town street structure, well, first of all, the floor system is overspanned, not per code. It's all sitting on directly on stone, beginning to rot and disintegrate, which is why we got kind of wompy floors in there. And there's no easy way that I know of fixing that, other than coming in and rebuilding a foundation on the inside of what's already there. And that's what some people do occasionally. I'm not sure what the point of that is to some degree, because you kind of circumvented what's already there. You haven't fixed the water issue, so on and so forth. So that's my opinion of that structure.
What would it cost to do what you just described? Generally, give me a ballpark.
Which one? Talk about rebuilding on the inside?
Rebuilding on the inside, yeah. Which I gather is your recommended, if you were to do it, that's what you recommend would have to be done.
You threw me a number of just the foundation.
Yeah, so probably $100,000 to do that, to come in and do that. Because one of the problems is when you do that, you're not, the foundation is not under the perimeter of the house anymore. So you got to begin to kind of fix that to make sure that the loading is correct and transferring properly. So that would be a ballpark.
And I gather there would be more work that would have to be done to bring this to bring this to habitability.
Yeah. You talked
For the rest of the house?
Yes.
Oh,
rest of the house.
Yeah, so a lot of these houses, they do them over by the hospital, and when they get done with them, they're great looking, they look nice on the outside. They actually look fairly nice on the inside. But some of the problems are just, I've been back to the same house, a couple of dozen times now, because over there, they don't want to put the money into the foundations. They just leave it. They just rebuild, kind of, scab on the outside. And then in 5 and 10 years, they're calling you back saying, hey, why are our floors all goofy? Well, it's because we didn't fix any of that. We just kind of, pasted and went on. But stairs is also a big issue. None of those stairs are code compliant in terms of rise and run of the steps. And so if you've never been down one with a tread that's only, 6 inches wide, it's dangerous. But they continue to grandfather those in over by the hospital, and there are hundreds of them over there now. So, and it's really difficult to change stairs, because you have to change the opening, change the framing, that changes the general layout of the house, and I get why people don't want to do it, but to me, it's a pretty big safety item.
So I too love old buildings. Being in the elevator industry, we worked with the Athletic Club of Columbus, Wyandotte Building, Beggs Building. I can just go on and on about all the historical structures we've worked on. I think that this particular one, from your perspective, once you did the foundation, the entire upper portion would have to be completely rebuilt.
Yeah, so a lot of it was covered, so I couldn't necessarily see, but what I could see, was not good and wouldn't meet code today. So I think my experience has been whatever, on these houses, whatever you think it's gonna be, once you start opening it up, 9 out of 10 times, it's worse than what you think, because it's just rotted, it's termited, it's whatever. And so specifically on the town street, especially with that siding and everything else that's on there, my guess is, once you open that up, it would be cheaper to replace all of the wood framing versus trying to repair what's there.
The other thing that has arisen that been in contact with FDA, and they would very much like to use that parcel if it is vacated. I think that it would be my choice, obviously, if the demolition would be approved, that we would make it available to the FDA at their request.
I'm sorry,
Franklinton Development Association, our neighbor.
your neighbor, gotcha. Well, do you have any idea what their thoughts are about the property?
I expect that they would use it for outdoor space for their tenants.
Questions, discussion?
Yeah, I'll just say that I didn't see anything in the report that I found to be too far gone to repair. I've witnessed hundreds of renovations of similar properties, and this could easily be renovated. That's my take on it.
I would agree as well. In fact, a lot of these basement photos look like the house I'm currently living in. Having worked on 3 historic homes myself and witnessing buildings that were much, much further gone than a building than this particular site, I would agree with staff recommendations and not set that precedent.
And, I think I'm in agreement as well. I spent a lot of time in that neighborhood, and it'd be a shame to see that place going, especially because the house next to it was just renovated recently by FDA. So and even though it's not qualifying, maybe not likely to qualify for the registry, there's, still a little bit of history that we're losing in that neighborhood with that being going there.
Absolutely.
Sounds like we've kind of made a decision here. Would somebody propose a motion, please?
So we have to choose between denial and,
Denial and continuance.
continuance.
So can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So if she wanted to build on top of that foundation, the way it is right now, would it be approved?
If she, I'm not quite understanding the question.
If she went to rehab it and she went to repair it and left the foundation as is, would that be approved by the building department? Do you think it would be approved by the building department?
Well, I'm a real estate attorney. I couldn't begin to tell you. I don't know if anybody else here would have that experience, to be able to even give me an answer to that.
I gathered there was some experience here that could answer that.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the question doesn't really sound like a yes or no code question, but it would be, I mean, like the picture up there, that dry stack stone, it appears the mortar is washed away because there's been a lack of drainage. You know, the gutters and downspouts aren't working. And that's just like a neglectful maintenance thing. So you would tuck point the foundation so that it's sound. And then if you have issues with the floor joists resting on the stacked stone, you can add supports. Like you don't need to build a full interior foundation, but you could add supports and or sister joists. So all those things are repairable as part of the renovations.
So you,
Well, you can't sister joists. That doesn't do anything.
Well, you were talking about the load of the upper floors not being to code, so those could be sistered to satisfy that. You know, just my opinion.
Okay.
But you could add supports to your foundation. You wouldn't need to rebuild the foundation. Still be like this.
Yeah, well, you're talking about another perimeter foundation that you're talking about. That's what that would be. That's what it
Or
would-
permanent posts, some type of permanent post support, a structural support.
Right, that would be a foundation.
Piers, columns, doesn't have to be a full
No, I understand,
foundation.
but piers and columns is a method of a foundation. I'm just,
Just clarifying.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
As far as the continuance versus denial, does the applicant have an interest in presenting a replacement plan to be considered?
not at this time. I think that we've been working toward demolition since last August. And that has been, our goal was to remove the blight that I consider this to be. I understand what some believe to be historic. I'm in a historic home myself. This, the different level of history than I would consider upgrading myself. We do have builders in the family, so I will probably address this with family members, determine what that interest is.
I would recommend continuance simply because if they do want to present an alternative at some point in the near future, they can do so. If they don't, well, they continue it, nothing happened. That generally correct?
Sure, yeah.
I appreciate that.
A continue would just, come back when you have something else to propose. A denial would be, you just can't come back with this same thing. So it really, I mean, you could still come back proposing a demo and a replacement use, you just can't come back with just the demo and backfill with gravel.
I appreciate the suggestion, so thank you.
All right, all right. So, all right, I will make a motion then to continue the application as submitted.
I'll second that motion.
All right, Mr. Bush seconded. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Fergus,
Approve.
Mr. Bush,
Approve?
Mr. Noffe,
Approve.
Ms. Hamilton. Motion carries.
Stick around, got another one. All right, next application is EF 2301-002, address is 140 McDowell Street. Then Kathleen Harper is the applicant, and Harper Enterprises Incorporated is the owner. Staff report, please.
Thank you. 140 McDowell Street, the applicant is requesting review and action on a proposed demolition of a single-family home. Upon demolition of the structure, the site will be backfilled, graded, leveled, and capped with recycled 304 gravel. The applicant advised the maintenance of the property would be added to their existing agreement for the upkeep of the other vacant McDowell Street properties. The submittal includes site plan, condition assessment, photos, and an inspirational image. This proposal was previously heard by the East Franklinton Review Board at the January 2023 meeting. During that meeting, the board requested more detailed information on the condition of the building, as well as a plan for how the property would be used, maintained if the house was demolished. The applicant has provided a more detailed condition assessment as well as an inspirational image. After reviewing the additional information provided, staff continues to not support the demolition of the single-family home circa 1882, as the condition does not appear to be beyond repair and the house represents a historic style and pattern of single-family home development on McDowell Street. The building is potentially eligible for the local register. The proposal is inconsistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. The plan recommends that historic and other contributing buildings should be preserved to the extent possible. Further, no replacement use is being proposed. Therefore, staff recommends that EFRB either continue the application, allow the applicant more time to develop a proposal for the future of the site, or deny the application as it is inconsistent with the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Actually, in this one, it says eligibility for the registry is possible, as a possibility.
Anyone else? If not, we're still under oath. Floor is yours, applicant.
Well, I presume we're going to end up at the same result. From what I've heard already, I think that we've talked about what can be done with this and how you do a new foundation. Again, if I'm going to do something such as, again, I talk about the elevator industry, that's taking people's lives into your responsibility. You make sure that your foundation is solid, you make sure your structure is good, you do things absolutely to code, beyond code. This particular structure, in order to do anything with it, would require, in my mind, a new supporting structure. And in doing that, I presume you have to support that brick in some fashion, the upper levels. That looks nice until you start touching it. That is my thought on this particular location. And I think that the 3 parcels there are much better suited to a multi-story, multi-use, higher density opportunity than retaining this brick wall, so to speak. Mike, your comments on it?
Yeah, well, so they're very similar. You know, the foundation's very similar on both of them. So they have the same issues. They both have the same framing issues. The exterior on McDowell is obviously in better condition than the first one. But yeah, the point would be if you wanted to try to do something with the foundation that included any jacking at all, my guess is there would be significant brick issues. And the brick is in relatively good condition now, so I doubt that it would take any movement.
Excuse me?
I doubt that it would take any movement without it to begin to crack and have issues.
You mentioned it was somewhat brittle.
Yeah, but yeah, at this point, with its age, it's extremely brittle. I mean, brick is brittle to begin with, so.
Questions for the applicant? Discussion?
I'll say the inspirational renderings that were submitted on both of these, I think is appreciated, at least in the context of, you know, like request, why you're asking for it. Last month it was just demolish them for green space. And, we have a plan we're supposed to abide by that also sets precedent for how future demolitions are handled. And so it's very difficult to just approve a demolition of a building that can otherwise be renovated for no purpose. And so if you do have a planned development, that you believe is a higher and better use, I think we would all listen to that. But to approve a demolition without an actual plan that you're committed to is not something that I'm comfortable doing. And I think based on the last case, I don't think anyone present here was comfortable doing. And so we're just kind of in this limbo area. If there's actually a plan to redevelop it, let's hear the plan. But if not, I don't think we can support the demolition of something that can be, in my opinion, economically renovated.
Can I ask what the plan was for the property on the south side of West Town Street that was torn down, the 3-story block building? What's the plan for that?
Is that 555 West Town?
Sounds about
The
right.
white building, it was a white.
Yeah,
building.
grayish white, multi-level.
That one did not come through the EFRB. That became an emergency demo order through code. We had started working with them to get the condition assessment, and then the building department got involved. So that went around essentially the normal process.
Yeah.
Should have gone around the normal process.
But I think that they had a lot of things in the back that were bracing that building up, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure. It came to me with a request for demo. I pushed back that we needed the condition assessment, and then before that was able to be completed, it was out of my hands.
That looked the same thing. The exterior looked really structurally sound, and then the next day it was gone.
I was gonna say on the back half of that, they had a lot of braces set up to keep that building from falling down before they got to demolition, so.
I think that the emergency demo order comes from an unsafe building order, I think. And
Mhm.
so we didn't have any evaluation of that project.
But I think this can also speak to us being really careful about the precedent that we're setting. Because when we do have other demolition applicants who want to backfill and not come with proposal, then they're going to say the very same thing about these properties. Right? So I think that also, your question to us is also speaking to the precedent that we have to be really careful to set here.
Yeah, I think
That's
that,
a precedent we
it's
have not- That's a precedent we have not set to this point.
Yeah,
That's why
it's
I'm
just,
surprised to hear that, and I'm glad that, because I couldn't remember ever approving a demolition without a plan.
yeah, and I'll wrap it up. It's obviously very frustrating to me, having been there 45 years and really solidified that block with our blood, sweat, and tears, and doing what we thought was right, in preserving the most favorable property on that block, that being the old Capitol Elevator building, which we ran 2 elevator businesses out of. Struggled through the open shelter, Riverside Bradley, I can go on and on, watching the SWAT teams guard the railroad through for cleaning the glass garden, because the railroad wouldn't do it without the SWAT team present. So anyway, it's frustrating now that, we have the opportunity to clean it up the next level, that it's going to be a much longer process to clean it up, because it's taken us this long, 2/3 of a year to get this far. So now if we're going into another phase of rebuild, this is just going to exacerbate the length of time that it's going to take. So.
Yeah, to end on a positive note, I would say the improvement that's happened in the area has increased the value of these properties to the point where now they can be economically renovated, and it's a value creation opportunity for you, whereas before maybe it wasn't. So
Yeah.
And
We were renovating.
And having said that, the board will consider a plan that includes a plan for what's going to happen to the property beyond being just turned into gravel or green space.
Yeah.
That's the precedent I think everybody wants to avoid here.
You know, and I fully understand that. To give you just another real tidbit of history, in the late seventies, those properties were purchased and they were being rehabbed. They were being made available. And then again, you know, shelter moved in, other things happened, and the whole neighborhood just, and we couldn't get any help. We put up fences in front of our porches to keep the prostitution off of the porches. The city made us take them down. I can go on and on, but you don't need to hear it. So anyway, that's my frustration level. And I would like to clear the blight, and now we'll have to go a different approach. But I thank you for your time.
Let's, all right.
Do we need to do
I move to continue the application.
I'll second that.
Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Bush,
Approved.
Mr. Noffe,
Approved.
Ms. Hamilton.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring our recused folks back in, please. Okay, we have one new application. It is EF 2303-001. Addresses are 640 and something West Town Street and 647, 641 West Chapel Street. The owner is Whitechapel Apartments LLC, and the applicant is Arch City Development. Second word, please.
Sure. We'll call this one new-ish. You've seen it multiple times, but this is a little bit of a revision. So this is for primarily 640 West Town Street. This project is within the Dodge Park subdistrict. It's returning to the East Franklinton Review Board due to changes in the design since the previous approval. As a reminder, the proposal includes the following: a new 5-story apartment building with partially covered ground level parking at the corner of West Town Street and South Grub Street, a new infill 3-unit apartment building at 647 West Chapel, renovation of the existing single-family home at 641 West Chapel, new surface parking lot, combination of 4 parcels, this has already occurred based on a previous approval, as well as the demolition of the existing gas station at 640 West Town, again, already occurred. A certificate of approval, which I had linked here, was issued in December 2022, detailing the previous approval and any conditions, as well as the approved development standard modifications. Since that approval, the applicant has made the following changes: redesign the Town Street building to accommodate an ODOT limited access right-of-way on the western portion of the site. The building has increased in size from 36,935 square feet to 37,625 square feet and gained an additional unit. So now there are 42 units in that building. The building height has also increased from 57 to 60 feet, and that's, the applicant can clarify, but I believe that's just the highest point on one of the stair parapets. As the design has progressed, change in siding material for all 3 buildings. The applicant is proposing and requesting approval for 2 options. Change in the windows. They're now proposing vinyl single hung, and then the double windows are mold. The transformer location has changed to be behind 641 West Chapel, and then they've added some trees per zoning requirements. The submittal includes a site plan, floor plans, elevations, renderings, and material cut sheets. The applicant will return for approval of signage and graphics. The proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. The plan recommends that new construction should be integrated within the existing neighborhood. While the proposed West Town Street building is larger than the surrounding buildings, the design and materiality combined with the infill of West Chapel reduce the overall visual impact of the development. Staff supports the height modification as the parcel is located at the corner of 2 primary streets and is in close proximity to State Route 315. Further, the plan recommends that landscaping and lighting enhance the project while not creating nuisances to surrounding properties or safety concerns, in addition to street trees on all public streets. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines. East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan also states that historic and other contributing buildings should be preserved to the extent possible. The applicant is proposing to renovate the existing historic single-family home at 641 West Chapel. The proposal is generally consistent with this recommendation. Staff does note that the existing masonry foundation is currently painted and encourages the applicant to remove the paint as part of as a part of the restoration and repair process. Staff is supportive of the overall proposal. If approved, the board would be approving the following code development standard modifications: a height modification to allow an increase of 25 feet from 35 feet to 60 feet for the West Town Street building. Parking lot screening modification to allow the required parking lot screening on the north edge of the property to not include the 4-foot buffer. Parking setback modification to reduce the minimum parking setback on the north end of parking under the main building from 5 foot to 2 foot. And then an interior landscaping modification to allow for the shade trees to be located along the north and west of the parking lot as shown. Staff recommends approval without condition. I did receive an updated material cut sheet. I think the applicant could talk about this some more. I think there was just something off with the colors. So if you could just pass those down, they could walk us through all.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Mentioned in the report you read that, vinyl was consistent with the guidelines, like, so
Yes, so in the original materials I sent out last Wednesday, the applicant was proposing vinyl at that time. They have since switched that to a fiber cement material, so we're good there. They are still proposing options of like different versions of that fiber cement, which they want to chat with you all about.
I'm just trying to catch up.
Yes.
Anyone else? Applicant, will you state your name, please, for record?
Brian Higgins.
Maria Anderson.
And do you swear or affirm that statements and testimony you're about to make true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Do.
Yes.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
We'll start out by sort of painting the big picture about how we got back here, and then I'll allow Maria to talk about some of the more nuanced architectural elements. You know, as Stephanie indicated, and as most of you recall, we'd come through here and thought we'd be done for quite some time, but then we were poking around with the city on the idea of potentially trying to get some additional parking on Sandusky Street, which is the western boundary of the site. It was at that time we discovered that ODOT has a limited access to right-of-way. Stephanie, could you move to the site plan real quick?
Adam's driving in the back,
Oh, is
but
he?
yes.
Sorry. There you go, where you can see the red line. If you go back one, there you go. It for whatever reason, it mostly one the other way. Sorry. There you go. It mostly goes down Sandusky Street, which would have been no big deal, but for some reason it juts in into what was at once before combination an independent parcel. I think it's like 22 feet deep, and so we had a number of conversations with ODOT, and essentially they said, look, you own the land, but we have this limited access right away from the construction of 315 in the 50s. And I thought, well, God, why didn't that show up in my title work? And lesson learned, that title work only goes back around 40 years or so. And this dates obviously, what is this, 70 years? So swing and a miss there, my fault. But at any rate, I said, was there a process that we can go through to vacate the limited access right of way? And ODOT said, sure. It just takes 18 to 24 months. So you can either sit on your hands and keep the same design and wait 2 years, which didn't seem like the best course of action, or you can redesign the building. And so that's what we ended up doing. We shifted the building a little to the east and to the north. We do have, ODOT said you could have essentially temporary elements to the limited access right-of-way area, which is why you see surface parking and a little bit of landscaping, but there can be, they really even struggled with having pavement there. They wanted it to be gravel, and of course that would be inconsistent with the city's standards and guidelines. So they said, well, we'll concede that, but we're not going to let you do anything else. So until such time as the limited access right of way is vacated, in which case, you know, I don't know what we would do in the future there on that location, but it would be our decision at that point in time. So, so what we've been doing here fairly rapidly in the last 45 to 60 days is going through this redesign process. We've also been going through some value engineering. It's a story I'm sure you're hearing from other applicants, the combination of just, material costs, labor costs, and of course, the wacky wild world of interest rates have created a dynamic that makes it very difficult to get buildings from paper to construction. So we went through our VE process, and that's why you've seen the back and forth on the materials. We were going to advocate for vinyl, but then we found a comparably priced fiber cement alternative, which, so we didn't have to go down that path, and that's preferable to us. But, the bottom line is, we're trying to roll with the punches here as best we can. So I will, at this point in time, defer to Maria to let her hit some of the highlights, and then we'll, of course, field any questions.
And Stephanie, do you have the updated site plan that I sent in?
The one with the stacked parking?
Yeah, so we also are proposing to add 3 more parking spaces that are stacked that you can see on that site plan there. And so our thought is the stacked parking spaces can go to 2 bedrooms. We've done this previously in a different design. And then the 7'2" one could be for a motorcycle or a smaller vehicle. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. And I just wanted to clarify on the SD002 sheet that I sent around. It's actually a wood composite that we are proposing. It's called LP Smart Side. And I have that for most of the material options, and I can hand this around, but it's very comparable to a fiber cement composite. We are still showing fiber cement on the stair tower. It's that FCP-3. And then we also have the fiber cement on the amenity deck where we will have a mural painted on it. And we also have it at a fireplace element. But the rest of the siding that we're proposing would be this LP Smart Side product. And the colors match, fairly well. We have a board and batten version and a horizontal siding version. So I can pass this around if you're not familiar with it. And the other change that we made, we previously showed this brick that originally got approved, and we shopped around a little bit. And this brick is from a closer plant. It's from the Iberia plant. We thought it was in the same family. And it comes in quite a bit. It's more affordable, basically. So we would like to switch to this brick. We did take brick off of the stair tower element that you can see kind of in this rendering. It kind of shows up as a brown block here. And our thought is to match it in terms of color. And that would be a fiber cement, kind of like a hardy panel, but our thought would be to just match that with the brick above. So those were the major material changes. We went with single hung instead of double hung windows. Little things like that have also changed. And then back of house, we're wrapping the brick around about 3 feet, and the back of house will just be painted block. I think we point that out as well on our elevations. Would you like me to pass these around, or?
No.
Okay.
I can say Francis, so appreciate it.
Of course.
Brick colored brick. So.
Indeed, we do.
And similarly, we're doing the same products on the triplex in the existing house. So they will be all this LP siding.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Discussion?
Can I just ask a nosy question? How much are you saving going from single hung to double, or from double hung to single hung windows? Only because I would much rather have a double hung window always in my living space.
I think it's like overall we have so many windows, but it's probably around 20%. We also, we're trying to use white anywhere where we have like white siding. That was also an increase in cost. And where we have the darker siding, we're going to go ahead and splurge a little bit and do some black trim, but yeah.
Okay.
What else?
I'll just say I'm familiar with that LP siding product and I don't have any concern. I think it's a good product. So I think the materials you're proposing are appropriate. All the changes seem logical. There's good reasons for it. I'm a little curious, so you moved the building over, but you were able to add a unit? I didn't do the like side-by-side comparison of the old plan versus the new.
We eliminated fitness.
Okay.
You know, frankly, we thought about it in other buildings that we've had and just what usage is versus the square footage. And thought, gosh, you know, I think there's other options if people, you know, maybe we can create a deal with, you know, like a local gym to encourage people. And then other people like just don't like the gym, right? Some people like to run or bike or do other things. And so it just seemed like, you know, a place we could, you know, keep the square footage essentially the same and add a little bit more revenue.
There are a couple of gyms over here about a block away, so.
My name is Jim. So.
And he is a gym. So.
They get a discount to hang out with you.
All right, well, sounds like I need a motion.
I move that we approve as submitted.
For a second.
Second.
For seconds. Call roll, please.
Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Bush,
Approved.
Mr. Noffi,
Approved.
Ms. Benner,
Approved.
Mr. Sweeney,
Approved.
Ms. Hamilton.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you. And with that, our next,
One last item.
oh yes, we have staff approval list amendment.
Yes. So, we did this last month, we went through it, we signed it, I thought it was great, and then I talked to, public service folks, because we can find it. So we had the, under number 6, right-of-way improvements, we had the right-of-way vacation, and that's where we specified, you know, that aren't part of the development proposal. But in talking with the right-of-way folks, and you probably know this, but there are multiple ways to get rid of right-of-way, and vacation is only one of them. So I just changed that from vacation to disposition, just so that we're covered there. But I wanted to let you know that I was making that change, and I will need you to re-sign it if there is no opposition.
Hard to imagine it would be.
Okay. Other than that, we are done.
All right, no big deal. I will sign that. Our next regular meeting is Wednesday, April 26th at 3 p.m. right here. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Good times. Sure, I see the everyone's hand board would not necessarily agree with that, but there's that. Well,
Did it come out today?
Yeah, today, March 22nd. Why you should plan a spring trip to Columbus, Ohio? 8/10 in plain sight. Maybe
I'd make it later in the spring.
They say